Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and today we have my April wrap-up. So in April, I read a lot more than I typically do in an average month, which I'm feeling really excited about, but that does mean I'm going to sort of breeze through these books. I'm going to try to really quickly summarize them and my feelings and move right along. But I did want to mention, because I don't think I've said this on my channel before, any book that I mention in a wrap-up will have a full review on my blog, emlikesbooks.com, and it will always be linked in the description box below. I'm much more eloquent in writing, so for full reviews and to hear more in-depth feelings and such on any books that I mention, definitely check down there. But now that I've been rambling quite a bit, I do want to jump into my list, so let's start with the first book that I read. I guess technically I listened to it. This was an audiobook. It's Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This is a science fiction book, the first in a series, where scientists have started uncovering these metal body parts, essentially. And in a quest to figure out what the heck all of this means and how these body parts and giants or whatever can be used, our unnamed anonymous narrator forms a team of a physicist named Rose, 2 army pilots named Kara and Ryan, and a linguist named Vincent. This team is working together to just try to figure out what the heck this thing is, how we can use it as a weapon or as protection or whatever it might be. The story is told through different interview transcripts, mission logs, journal entries, news reports, etc. So it's a dynamic storytelling. It reminded me a lot of the Illuminae files, except a little bit more structured in form used to tell the story. But the audiobook is fantastic. There are different voice actors for each character, so it made it very easy to listen to, which is my favorite way to experience an audiobook, personally. It was very cool. I was immediately hooked. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is probably my favorite from the month, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I wrote a very lengthy blog post on this, so for a full declaration of my feelings and love for this book, you can definitely check that out. But to quickly summarize, this is about classic Hollywood star Evelyn Hugo. She's a fictional character. However, Taylor Jenkins Reid does an amazing job at making her feel so real. She was very beloved throughout her entire career, but now that it's over and she's kind of taking a step back, she decides she wants to share her story with the world. She invites journalist Monique Grant over to her home to write a story for the magazine that she is a writer for. However, when she gets there, Monique quickly realizes that Evelyn intends to have her write the biography of Evelyn Hugo rather than just a short little article. Evelyn has had a pretty scandalous career, obviously. I mean, she's very loved, but she has been married 7 times. She's taken on some questionable roles, sort of. She has just kind of broken the mold of the demure Hollywood actress who just does what she's told and whatever. Monique obviously wants the full story and she wants to get at the heart of who Evelyn Hugo is. So of course, her first question for her is, who is the love of Evelyn Hugo's life? Evelyn Hugo is such a real character. I had to remind myself that this wasn't like a nonfiction book telling me about real life Evelyn Hugo. But anyway, this was also a wonderfully diverse book, which is amazing considering the time period that it takes place in. You never see much diversity represented in like the early 1950s and such. And I think there are a lot of excuses made for that. But Taylor Jenkins Reid is able to incorporate LGBTQ themes, interracial couples on a lot of different levels. She tackles mental health, and I don't know, it's incredible all that she's able to pack in. It's not a super lengthy book, but I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. I gave this an easy 5 out of 5 stars, and honestly just can't wait to read it again. Okay, and then the reason that I have so many books on my wrap-up list this month is because last weekend I decided to challenge myself to a bit of a readathon for a couple of reasons. One, Adam was out of town, so I was kind of left to my own devices to entertain myself, and Minneapolis got like 1 trillion feet of snow. It was an insane weekend. It did not stop snowing for I think like 50 hours straight or something ridiculous. So naturally, to console myself and try to lift my spirits, I pretty much just read, which was amazing. So on Saturday morning, I started with a book that I had already made my way into. I was a couple of chapters in at this point, and that is Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. And this is a very whimsical middle grade fantasy tale with Morrigan Crow at its heart. So Morrigan Crow is born a cursed child, which means a few different things. One, she brings bad luck wherever she goes. So everything bad that happens in her town, in her society, is pretty much blamed on her and her curse. Two, she's doomed to die on her 11th birthday. Because of this, bad luck vibe and just everyone having really bad feelings towards Morrigan, her father is pretty cruel. He's a well-known politician. He's sort of hoping to work his way up in the ranks, it seems, and he has no love for Morrigan. Now, obviously, this means Morrigan has grown up in a pretty sad environment. She doesn't really have any friends because no one wants to even make eye contact with her, let alone hang out with her. All that said, of course she doesn't want to die on her 11th birthday and she's dreading that moment. But instead of her impending death, a very whimsical and fun character named Jupiter North swoops in at the last minute to save her and bring her off to the land of Nevermore. Once she gets here, she is destined to seek acceptance into a society within Nevermore. And to do so, she needs to compete in several different trials against hundreds of other children who are around her age to prove that she has what it takes to be a part of the society. The trials were maybe my favorite aspect of the book, but some other highlights: Morrigan herself is a fantastic main character. She is a little bit flawed. She's basically the female Harry Potter, and I am here for that. Two, there is a giant magical talking cat. The trials, like I said, probably my favorite part. It was very, very interesting. And then Jupiter North is just a fun character. I think he's sort of trying to come across as like a young Dumbledore-esque character. He's a little mysterious, but really fun and very colorful, and I loved him, and he was a great addition to the story. And once again, I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. So while I took that break to recharge my Kindle as I was reading Nevermore, I decided to pick up March, Book 1 by John Lewis, Andrew Aiden, and illustrated by Nate Powell. This is a graphic novel told from Congressman John Lewis's point of view on the morning of Barack Obama's inauguration in 2009. As he's getting ready to attend this historic event, and one that's very meaningful to him as a black man, Congressman Lewis is sort of reminiscing back on his life and different events that have led him to where he is, and events in our country's history that have led us as a society, as a country, to where we are today. It detailed things like the Montgomery bus boycotts, the lunch counter sit-ins in North Carolina, I think a couple different marches that he took part in, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway, this just is a really wonderful and easily digestible way to learn some of this information. I just love that we're in this age where history is being taught in different forms rather than just textbooks. So we have graphic novels, and we have things like Hamilton and TV shows like The Crown that are just a little bit easier to digest than straight nonfiction, and I think it makes it more accessible to younger audiences as well. This does sort of breeze through the topics rather quickly, so that was the one thing that I was a little disappointed in. However, I think it leaves a lot of, just curiosity on my part. I really want to go and read more about these different events. Overall, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. So moving into last Sunday, I immediately picked up The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I adored this book. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I thought I would really enjoy it and that I would get a nice, quick, contemporary romance out of it, which is totally what it was. It's like a rom-com in a book. But I was just smirking the whole way through. I absolutely loved the characters. I thought, it's cheesy. It's definitely a cliche in a lot of ways, but I was all about it, personally. This book follows our 2 main characters who are both executive assistants to the co-CEOs of the publishing company that they work at. About a year ago, the 2 publishing companies merged to form one overarching company, and they were 2 very different styles, 2 very different offices. And so Lucy and Joshua are complete opposites. This is told from Lucy's point of view, and it's very clear from page 1 that she does not like Joshua. She feels that he doesn't have a lot of respect for her as an employee, as a person. He doesn't totally take her seriously, and she harbors a lot of resentment towards him because of that, which I think is totally valid. When a promotion opportunity comes up that they are both applying for, they get this sort of competitive vibe going between them. Leading up to this promotion, they sort of start to spend a little bit more time together, and as you can guess, it turns into a romance. The romance is definitely more of a slow burn. It's kind of a tease. It's really cute in some circumstances, a little steamy in others. It was funny. I was laughing throughout this book. I was smirking the entire way through. One of the other elements that I really liked about this book is that Lucy is 5 feet. She's really short. I'm 5'1", almost 5'2", and I liked seeing the identity of a short woman being portrayed in this. She talks a lot about how she hates when people call her Little Lucy or refer to her as cute, pick her up, whatever. But I just totally identify with that. I hate that people see me as like a child or a little bit more immature than I am. I mean, I am a 24-year-old adult woman, and I still have people who call me adorable on the reg, and I get it. It's, I mean, whatever, but it does kind of get under my skin. And it was just fun to, I don't know, read that angst on the pages as well. So totally identified with Lucy in that respect. She also has a love for red lipstick. I love red lipstick. And just, you know, I was really into Lucy. This one, I ended up giving 5 out of 5 stars. It might be more like 4.5. I think I added the extra half star because I was just like so giddy when I finished it. I don't know, I haven't totally firmed up my rating on this, but one of those two. And the last book that I completed during my little weekend readathon is a novella within Queens of Fenburn by Kendara Blake. This is a bind-up of 2 novellas within the Three Dark Crowns series. The first one I read back in December, so I will leave that blog post linked down below as well. But the second novella in this, called The Oracle Queen, I really enjoyed. This one follows Queen Elsebet, who is a queen from like 500 years ago within this world. I'm not going to go super deep into what this world is all about because I feel like I've done that a couple of times on my channel, and I have blog posts for both Three Dark Crowns and One Dark Throne, the first 2 books in the series, on my blog. Queen Elsebet reigned 500 years ago, and she was the last queen gifted with the sight gift. She gets sort of prophecies or messages or whatever from the future, I guess. I don't know how it works. It doesn't really go into how her sight works. But we have heard of Queen Elsebet in the other books in the series. I forget which one she was mentioned in, but they talk about how any queen, any triplet queen that is born with the sight gift in this day and age is immediately drowned, put to death, because Queen Elsebet went so crazy and had wreaked a lot of havoc on their world. So naturally, she's a really compelling character, and I have found myself wanting to know more about her, so I was excited about this novella. In this, we get the first-hand account, essentially, of Queen Elsebet and hear more about this madness that she has. The one thing that I was bummed about is that it ended so soon. Like, I wanted to know more. I feel like I could have read an entire novel on Queen Elsebet. I thought she was a really interesting character. The other thing that I didn't love is that I didn't notice a huge difference in the way these stories were told, if that makes sense. Like, this is supposed to be 500 years ago, and it had the same tone and the same voice as the other books. But does that make sense? I just expected that to be different, and the language and the, I don't know, the world to be a little different. The only way you would really be able to tell that it was 500 years ago is that the castle isn't completed yet and it's like in progress. And that's a huge plot point, weirdly. Anyway, I ended up giving The Oracle Queen 4 out of 5 stars, so this collection of 2 novellas in total will get a 3.5 from me. The next book I completed was Waking Gods by Sylvain Neuvel. This is book 2 in the Themis files, so the sequel to Sleeping Giants. I again listened to this on audiobook and still really enjoyed that element of it. However, I find myself in the minority of readers in saying that I did not enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed the first one. For whatever reason, it was harder for me to get into. The format was different. It was still a collection of like case files and such, but it felt like the author was trying to play with that a little bit more and be more creative with some of it, at least in the first half of the book, and that didn't totally come across for me, or didn't come across well. I still am really into this series. I'm very curious what's going to happen next. The final book comes out on May 1st, so I already have pre-ordered the audiobook, and I'm excited to see how it's all wrapped up. I'm not going to do a synopsis on this because it is the second book in a series, but my biggest complaint, I think, is this book starts 10 years after the events of Sleeping Giants, and I just have a really hard time believing that nothing happened in that decade between the books, so I'm not totally buying it. In the end, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay, not great, but did make me excited for the last book in the series. Next book I read was Red Clocks by Lenny Zumas. This was one I got from Book of the Month quite a few months ago, actually, and it was a highly anticipated release. I was super intrigued by this story, and I was definitely getting ready to give it 5 out of 5 stars. This book takes place in a world where abortion has been outlawed and the Personhood Amendment has been passed. So the 28th Amendment to the US Constitution gives full rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to a fetus, which means that in vitro fertilization has also been outlawed because it technically is moving and the fetus does not have the ability to give permission. Does that make sense? It's super weird. Additionally, there's a law that is about to be put into place called Every Child Needs To, which makes it illegal for single parents to adopt children. This book follows 4 different women, and I'm not going to go super in depth with descriptions of all of them, but they all have sort of a title that Lenny Zumas uses throughout the book to describe them. We have the daughter, the biographer, the wife, and the mender. And one thing that I thought was really intriguing was in the chapters, rather than referring to the women as their names, which we do know and we can identify them by their names, most of the time the author chooses to describe them by their title rather than by their name, which I think just kind of takes away some of their identity and some of their agency over themselves. Rather than their name, they are their profession or role within their family, which I just thought was really intriguing, because in this world there are certain things being taken away from women and from mothers, and it was just another way to realize that the agency of women is, I don't know, it's just another way to distance ourselves from the women. I thought it was a really cool narrative tactic. I did have a hard time getting into the book. The writing style is a little different. It's definitely an adult book. I've read a lot of YA and a lot of fluffy books this month, so getting used to this writing was a little tricky. So I did have a hard time getting into it, but once I did, I was really enthralled by the story. I thought it was really, really great, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, so not quite up to the anticipated 5 stars, but it was pretty close, and I did really enjoy it. Thought it was very intriguing. The ending, I still have a lot of questions, and I don't think there's going to be a sequel, but I have a lot of questions. Okay, and finally, I haven't actually read this book, but it just got delivered to my mailbox, so I'm going to open it. This is one that I have been highly, highly anticipating ever since February. Oh, it's so pretty. I'm so excited. So this is Becky Albertalli's new book, Leah on the Offbeat, which is a companion novel to Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda, which, you know, I adore. This follows the characters from Simon in their senior year, but it does focus on Leah, Simon's best friend, who has a secret. She is bisexual and she's come out to her mother, but she hasn't told any of her friends, not even Simon, who in Simon versus Homo sapiens Agenda comes out as gay. I am so excited to read this. I loved Simon so, so much, and Epic Reads actually published or released the first 3 chapters of Leah a couple days ago, and I read the first 3 chapters and they were really good. I also work with high school seniors primarily, so I'm excited to see that represented here. I love the process of the college search and application process, which is maybe weird. I am excited to see that within these characters too. I also feel like my lipstick kind of matches a little bit. I didn't even do it on purpose. This is an anticipated 5 out of 5 stars, but I will keep you posted once I do actually read it. Okay, that was long. I probably have a lot of editing to do, so sorry, editing Emily. That is everything for this video. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I enjoyed making it. Let's continue the conversation either in the comments below, or you can find all my social media links in the description box. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and you can see new videos from me every week. But until then, happy reading. Bye.